Hello, hello. Here I am, back in black. You know what's funny is when you start to realize the idiosyncrasies of yourself. Well, there are parts of you that are learning and growing and developing and you're changing. There are still other parts of you that you think should come along with the ride and they don't. So it's funny because Black and I are friends and I've tried to be super colorful. I feel like there's a bright boho personality somewhere deep inside here, but I can't get her to come out. I have a smock dress that I want to start wearing in the summertime when it's warm and I start painting again. I'll probably paint before then, but bright colors in the spring is kind of my go-to, and I have this pair of shoes in mind that I want to get to go with it. And the smock it's just a sheath dress, right? And it just has lots of pretty colors on the front of it. And I just feel like that's what I would like to do, is to wear something artful. And I end up wearing Steve Jobs, like black turtleneck and jeans. It's where I live. So, accepting parts of yourself that don't necessarily come along for the journey. But I have just been reading and diving in and studying like The Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mace. And oh my gosh, to understand and to be able to heal yourself, to understand the parts of you that and why they hurt and that sort of thing. Wow, gold, just gold. So it's just I have friends who say, I can't believe your dedication to studying and to learning and growing. And I'm like, listen, I think I would die if I didn't. It's not, I don't wake up and like, okay, it's a to-do list and I have to do these things. It's not like that. It's literally my creative energy goes to, what don't I know? It's the same as painting and abstract painting. It's like, I wonder what it's gonna look like today. And so that's literally what I end up doing when I start my journey of discovery and that sort of thing. But what I actually wanted to talk about today, it's the most unpopular opinion I can think of to talk about, and it is, we're not here to do hard things. When people say I can do hard things, it's like, there is no doubt in my mind you can, but why would we? Why wouldn't we want to find the fastest way through it? Why wouldn't we want to find the ease and the flow of it? Why would we want to do hard things? Like, where's the badge of honor there? We're going to have to do hard things anyway. We're going to have to struggle. I was just talking to a friend and she said, you're just so interesting. You have so many stories to tell and so many things that you've overcome. And because I do tell stories and people are like, what? That was you? You did that? We can't hardly believe it. And it's like, well, it's true, but those things came because of my conditioning, because of my belief system, because I was doing things to bring more of the struggle into my life until I realized that I didn't actually have to struggle anymore. We're not built to do hard things. We're built to move through things. We're built to have experiences that teach us and help us grow wise and help us gain experience, but we're not here to do the same cyclical thing that's hard over and over and over again. If you've had difficult relationships and they're just difficult all the time, you've gone from one, you've gone from another, and there's the same pattern is following you, you got to stop and look at it. You got to stop and figure out why you haven't exited the roundabout. Because it's possible to exit the roundabout. Sometimes it's not the popular thing to do. Sometimes it's going against almost everything that you've ever believed, and you're dismantling your beliefs at such a rapid rate, it feels like you're dying. It feels like your world's coming apart. And when stuff like that happens, we're not meant to stay there. We are meant to have those experiences because there's only one way through it. Only one. And it's literally go through it. There is no other way to get experience and grow without doing hard things. But I think when people find a badge of honor, like they're on a fitness journey, or they're on a change your family patterns journey. Like they're on a journey. If you're on a journey of some sort, make sure that journey has an exit plan. You're exiting the roundabout. You got to go to new places. That's where the growth is. So when you're going to new places, you're having new experiences, you move through them quickly, and then off you go. Like sometimes I feel like I'm jumping timelines. This is like a phrase I've used because I'm like, gosh, my learning curve is so high, but it's so fast. I'm in the roundabout, I'm out. I'm in the roundabout, I'm out. And so maybe you found yourself in the same situation where you're in the roundabout and then you're gone. But sometimes you're in that roundabout for a very long time. Like I spent the first, 40 years in a roundabout, same roundabout. It was a cyclical story of my mother's struggle. My mother said no one could ever love her. And she made a point to teach it to us every day in the way she would not accept our love for her, in the way that she would do self-deprecating things or say self-deprecating things, the way she would, it was almost like her Bible, that I am not loved and no one is going to change that story. So you can kind of hear how hard her life was, and the belief system she picked up early on was to make sure that the story she developed was the only truth for everybody else. Well, I didn't buy into it, sorry. I was like, that can't be true. Because if it's true for you, it's true for me, and it's not true for me. So I just don't know how that could be. So, but my entire the first half of my year, basically, of my life, was trying to get out of that roundabout. It was me going, why am I in this roundabout? If I don't believe that I am unloved, if I don't believe that I am not lovable, then there's got to be an exit to this pattern of hanging out with people that don't love me, or that don't have the ability to love me. This is a better way to say it. And exiting that roundabout was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was necessary. It was a necessary hard thing, but it didn't stay forever. Like it had a direction. There was an exit to a relationship I chose for myself early on, when I believed that I needed to be with people who would perpetuate the same story that my mom told me, that I was unlovable. And when I exited that roundabout, it was painful for more than just myself. It was an ending of a marriage, and it was the beginning of a new relationship, and the one that found me flat on my back, looking up at God going, there is not a person on this planet right now that knows I'm alive, or cares that I'm alive. And my mother had passed by that time. Friends, people that I had built relationships with for 8 years in North Carolina, not one phone call came through. People, I was like, wow, really? Huh? Did I do that? That was another wake-up call to get out of a cyclical pattern, to take responsibility for who I was to myself, not needing everybody in the world come running to see if I was okay. That was a huge one for me. But as I was lying there flat on my back on my little rented apartment floor all by myself in the world, wondering, why does it even matter if I'm here? No one knows I'm here. Clearly I'm not doing any good. And if you know anything about the Enneagram, you know what an Enneagram 2 is, and it's the helper. So I'm born to serve people. I'm born to help people in healthy ways. I was not doing it so well back then in healthy ways. But to be myself, to really claim those parts of me that were super important to develop, and to give away those parts of me that were just ideas, false beliefs, without losing myself. There's so much that goes into breaking patterns and exiting a roundabout so you're not just still going in the same boring circles for the rest of your life. It's so important to do this. But the hard part was allowing myself, when we do hard things, there is resistance attached to it. And when I allowed myself to feel God's love, I needed to know that there was a reason for my life on earth still. I didn't know if there was a reason for me to be alive. It seemed like I had worked myself out of a job as a mother. It seemed like in my unhealthy self, back then, it was not a safe space for my kids. So they weren't looking to me for any kind of advice or guidance. And my friends went on with their lives, and I was no longer, I was in the middle of deciding if I needed a divorce in order to break the pattern, if that was the only way out. And God was the only person that I could turn to. I needed to know. And it was 3 months of begging to know, meaning begging in, I was participating. I was reading, studying, praying, meditating, going for long walks, sitting in Barnes and Noble so I could just be around other people, reading books, and, going to the gym and trying to take care of my body the best I could. And there was so much effort put into wanting to not do hard things anymore. Eventually, I got to the place, lots and lots of journal writing. Boy, if you're struggling, journal write. God comes through in your pen. It does, I promise. Do it the old school. Do it handwriting. It's crazy what comes through. But the most important thing was that I learned I don't have to struggle. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And when I say that, people are like, well, yeah, you got to pay your bills. You have to go to work. You have to do. I was like, if you want to go to work, it's way easier than if you don't want to go to work. So when I say I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, I make sure that the things that I do need to do are things I want to do. Can you hear that? Can you hear the shift? It's so important to do the things you want to do because it's not as hard. So we're not here to do hard things. We're here to do the things we want to do. We're here to remove the resistance out of our lives so we can exit the roundabout. Like if we have resistance for exiting the roundabout because we're not sure which path to take, we're not sure which direction to go, we're not sure, until you're sure, you do not exit the roundabout. And sometimes, more often than not, until we figure out the ease and the flow of exiting roundabouts in our lives, we have a lot of resistance to exiting them because number one, they're familiar. Number two, they become our safe place. And number three, it's what's expected of us. What else do you do in a roundabout but go round and round? Until you understand the purpose for the roundabout, and then you're like, oh, it's just to take a new path. It's to go. It's to experience other things. And when we do that with ease, when we do that, we learn to do it quickly, that we're not circling in the roundabout for a very long time. We're just like, first exit, I'm out. Because we recognize that we are in the roundabout. That's when things get easy. That's when we go with the flow of life. That's when we start to have these new mind-blowing, eye-opening experiences that are that way, in a good direction. And honestly, it doesn't matter. If you think of a literal roundabout, whatever direction you take, they're automatically, if it's the wrong direction, you can always turn the car around, get back in it, and go out a different direction, right? We tend to think that if we make decisions in our life, that it is a permanent choice, that it's permanent, and that we're not allowed to choose differently. We're not allowed to change our mind. We're not allowed to step outside the box. We're not allowed to run with our intuition or, because it might hurt somebody or it might offend somebody or it would be irresponsible of me or it would be I can't tell you the life experiences that not only I have had, but my family members have had. When I left the roundabout, it took years. I'm saying, there's no there's no timeline for grief. Like, we were all grieving the loss of something that was the only thing we knew, even though there was not a lot of happiness in the relationship that my ex-husband and I shared. There was finally not damage being done. That was good. And then the journey I took to get healthy allowed me to become a safe space for my kids to come to. And I'm telling you, we're going to be mentors to our children so much longer than we're actually going to be mothers. Like, the mothering is between 0 and 18. The mentoring happens after that. Like, hopefully we've taught them what they need to know in those 18 years, and that they are somewhat proficient at going out in life and starting on their own and that sort of thing. So we'll spend a lot of time being their mentors. And if I was still in a bad place where I was not able to get healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like get the whole thing on board, our lives would have been so different. My relationship with my kids would have been so different, but more importantly, my relationship with myself and God would be so vastly different than it was before. Because before, I was just following along and not asking questions and wasn't trying to find out for myself. Can God really hear me? Do I really matter? Like, I wasn't on that journey. I was just going along. And sometimes that can be easy and sometimes that can be hard. Because when I started asking questions, it got really hard. But I would have to say, overall, I wouldn't change a thing. Not about the hard times, not about the easier times. Because it all, and you'll see this in your life too, it's all moving you forward. It's all taking you downstream where you were meant to go. You were meant to flow downstream, not paddle upstream, because paddling upstream is resistant. It's hard. It's doing hard things unnecessarily. Whereas if you get in the boat, it is definitely going to just take you downstream automatically. And the scenery's lovely and you're going places without working at it. And it's just no resistance. When I learned to sit down in the boat, which is not all the time, like, we're not perfect, right? So sometimes I paddle upstream and then I'm like, oh wait, just kidding. Put the paddle in the boat and off I go downstream. It just going downstream with God is so much easier even than going downstream on my own. So when you learn to do this easier, more simple, we are not meant to do hard things, which has a lot of resistance attached to it. It's not leaving the roundabout because we're afraid of what's out there. We're afraid to leave the safety net of what we know. We're afraid to change directions because it might be the wrong one. When all that's going on, it gets harder. So my suggestion, as a coach, I've been coaching for the past 4 years. I was in fitness for 16 years, but there was a lot more coaching than there was fitness being taught. And I realized that people quit on themselves because of the stress that's in their life. And it's usually stress that's in their life because of the roundabout they've been riding around in for their whole life. And so they're afraid to leave the roundabout. They're afraid to let go of the fear and go take a risk and see that it's actually easier, it's more fun, the growth is exponential, the healing and the health that you crave is right there available for you, and everything gets better. Like, everything gets better. I can't think one thing that didn't get better. Everything gets better. So if there's anything that I can do to help you, I do one-on-one coaching, but I also am opening up a mentorship for women. And it is women that need the community, need the support, need that conversation around becoming your whole self and who that is in your eyes and who that is through God's perspective. Because when you can see yourself through His perspective, everything gets better. Like, it's not as hard. It's just you start to let some of those old beliefs and things that you've heard and thought about yourself, they just melt away. Everything gets better. Everything. You become easier. You let go of the fear. You embrace your journey. And gosh, life is so much better on the other side of the roundabout. So If I can help you exit, please let me know. Talk to you soon.